Do you want me to intro it at all, or is it like the style where you're the cameraman asking the question? Okay, I would rather it be that way instead of me saying, hello everybody. Yeah. This is the boring behind the scenes stuff that no one ever wants to see, but it's important for me. So usually I start with just breathing and bracing. Before I got pregnant, I didn't spend like a ton of time doing it before each training session. But just because I'm 12 weeks postpartum, had a C-section, there's still a lot of relearning to my breathing and bracing. So that's really the intent behind a lot of the movement that I'm doing right now, is just listening to what feels comfortable, how I can load my body, making sure that my breath is linked with my brace, and just making sure there's not any discomfort around my incision. And kind of weird because I feel like I have to relearn how to use my abdominals again. So at the beginning, I'm warming up a lot more than I usually would, but that's why. And then I just go into some DNS flow stuff. Same thing, trying to just work basic movement patterns, but focusing on breathing and bracing. And then sometimes I get interrupted because I need to walk him around. It's okay. So most of my workout is supersetted with stroller pushes. So while I'm pushing, a lot of that work looked super simple, but believe it or not, that actually the DNS flow work actually got my heart rate going. I'm actually breaking a sweat a little bit. Full body movement patterns. A lot of those movements I picked specifically to warm up my shoulders, just because my shoulders have been achy carrying him around all day. My neck has been bothering me, so just doing a lot of the prone work, really working on uprighting my neck. A lot of core work, supine, actually really bothered my incision. So doing a lot of quadruped work on hands and knees is actually an easier position for me to start from. People like to start core progression supine, but for me, quadruped just worked better. Other things that I was working on in just that short DNS flow is just warming up my hip rotators, going back and forth from quadruped to bear. I was even working on some ankle mobility. So again, just working basic movement patterns, getting breathing and bracing down. And then I trade off with Colby, my husband, so I can work out. This is actually my first week postpartum that I'm actually gonna put a bar on my back. Past few weeks, I've just been doing BFR without any load, just to get some higher intensity work without heavy load, which has been great. So typical programming for BFR, you tend to see like 30 reps followed by 3 sets of 15. I'm just gonna do sets of 10 just because this is my first workout back, actually putting weight on my back. So I own 4 different BFR cuffs and all of them are a little bit different. This one you actually have to measure your max level of occlusion pressure and then figure out what pressure you want to train at. So I might not be able to finish this. Oh, it's sad that this feels heavy, but I had a baby. Feels good to have a bar back on my back. So even though this is an empty bar, I swear it burns, but that's what I love about BFR, is that you'll get a burn. While I was pregnant, I had a lot of tailbone discomfort and SI discomfort. So I've been doing a lot of pelvic floor PT to try to get on top of that and just make sure that I'm not overworking or pushing my pelvic floor too hard too soon. In the past 12 weeks after giving birth, really it's just, again, trying to relearn how to utilize my core. I never thought I'd have to relearn to breathe, but I guess 10 months of expanding here and your ribs expanding are gonna change some things. So when I'm training and slowly adding load, I'm paying attention to, do I have a heaviness feeling in my pelvis and my pelvic floor? Does my tailbone hurt? Does my low back hurt? Sometimes it'll just feel like unstable. It's a really weird feeling. So just paying attention to those things and really not trying to push intensity. And then I'll push him around a little bit. We'll keep him sleeping. First time I had to do stroller pushes with BFR, my legs were super sore. I always feel awkward breathing really hard with no weight and with BFR, especially if people are looking at me and they don't know what BFR is and they're just like, why is she struggling so bad? I swear it's hard. Yeah, I've been certified in BFR since 2017, and I love it. I use it all the time, but used it during the pandemic when all the gyms shut down, and then obviously having it postpartum has been great. Not enough research has supported trying to do it pregnant, because I'm sure a lot of pregnant women don't want to just sign up to see what might happen. Just have a super jacked baby. Colby. So a lot of people don't know that I actually, my main career is in physical therapy. So yes, I'm a coach here, but I also do physical therapy as a PTA. And so I've done since actually before I got pregnant, I started doing more continuing ed on pelvic floor PT, and just doing some courses for prenatal and postpartum coaching. So that's been really interesting to learn. I think the hardest part is feeling like you can lift more, because it doesn't necessarily feel heavy in my hands, but knowing that it's a lot of pressure on my pelvic floor is a different story. So there's just so much happening through your core. It's been an experience to relearn everything, relearn how to move. High rep stuff sucks.
It's probably gonna be super used to loud noises though.
He falls asleep
Really?
in the gym. No, there have been a couple days where he's super fussy at home, and I brought him to the gym and then he passes out. I don't know if it's a good thing that he enjoys like heavy metal, death metal head banging music, but whatever. If he falls asleep to that, I don't think he'll be able to get away from it with our lifestyle, The cuffs that we sell, the Be Free Science cuffs, those ones are kind of nice just because it's a multi-chambered cuff and it can't fully occlude, so you're not just constantly worried about like, is it too tight? Well, you would know if it's too tight, honestly. Whereas this, like if I could actually pump it, so then it would fully occlude, which again, you would know if you're doing, if you start losing feeling and you're going purple and and you don't stop, I think there's something wrong with you if you keep going through that. I always have to adjust everything to be super small here. Whew. I don't know if I'll even get to 30 for the first set of these. So another thing, training postpartum, and I was also training or practicing this while pregnant too, is just making sure that I wasn't holding my breath through reps. So with BFR, even though there's not heavy load, obviously there's still a burn, so I have to continually remind myself to not hold my breath to get through those final reps, just because I don't want to do Valsalva. It's because that'll put more pressure on my pelvic floor. So really focusing on inhaling, diaphragmatic breath, and then when I exhale, it brings my diaphragm and pelvic floor up to contract. So, Kabuki's known for one of our foundations being breathing and bracing. So, going into pregnancy, I'm like, I have this down. And postpartum, I'd be like, I had this down. I know how to do this stuff. But yeah, lots of changes to my body that I've had to relearn again. But the diaphragmatic breath, in a lot of our content, we just focus just on the diaphragm and not really its relationship to the pelvic floor. But it's just super important. The pelvic floor is part of the core. We just don't really talk about it that often, and especially pregnancy and postpartum. It's definitely super important to take that into consideration of how well you are able to contract and engage your core, all aspects, not just rectus abdominis, not just focusing on trying to improve the diastasis if you have one. It's just connecting everything 360 degrees around your trunk, and then top to bottom diaphragm and pelvic floor coordination. My baby's just by himself over there. Like, where is my husband? But he seems fine. He's just chilling. One more set, I think. So let's see, I started training again 7 weeks postpartum, and I'll be transparent. So a lot of people ask, like, how are you having time to go train? The only way that I am training, or I feel like the only way that I am able to train is because I can bring him to the gym and my husband is here with me. Otherwise, I'll be honest with you, I would not come here by myself with my baby or go to any other gym, because I don't think any other gyms would allow that. But only because I have the help of my husband that I'm able to come here, because I'm not that brave. Oh, and when I say I'm not that brave, it's driving. I definitely don't have the confidence driving a ton by myself with him yet. I'm assuming that's a new parent thing and it'll wear off soon, but I'm like constantly looking. I feel like I'd be more distracted with him in the car than that. So this is actually a good day, because usually I am having to push him in between every single set. He just happens to be passed out today. I hope I didn't jinx that. So I've been trying to do a little bit more cardio just to keep moving. So I'll walk a couple times a week. We're in the Pacific Northwest, so that doesn't always happen, and I don't walk in the rain. So I've just been doing some rowing, and then of course pushing him around in the gym when I can. Now, one thing I will say, a lot of people ask like what my weight is postpartum, and just if I'm trying to get to a certain weight again, and honestly, no. I usually weigh around 105 to 114. Last time I competed in the 114 weight class. I went up to 150 pounds while pregnant. And so I'm 12 weeks postpartum. Last time I weighed myself, I'm down to 120. Are not intended for me to try to lose weight. I'm just trying to move and just feel good moving again and not having any pain, getting used to my body again. And of course, I do want to compete at some point, but there's no rush right now. So one thing that really stuck with me in one of my courses is, once you're postpartum forever. And so I think a lot of people, especially on Instagram, Facebook, you get a lot of ads talking about like get your body back or bounce back, but there's no such thing as going back. I know that sounds really negative and cynical, but it's not. It's just that it's, your body completely changed in 40 weeks. It's going to be different, and it's going to be different forever. And so I cringe a little when I see people saying like, oh, you're going to bounce back in no time, or do this program so you can bounce back and get your body back, or get your tummy flat again. It's just, in my opinion, and hopefully how I coach my clients and work with my patients, is that's not the goal. I want my workouts and hopefully the people that I coach to just make them feel good and get them to relearn how to move with a new body and just meet your body with where it's at. It's not a bounce back method. So I'm just gonna do five minutes total, so 1 minute intervals.
If someone can't find it with a handbook, and it's going to take them 30 minutes more to find it, it'd be great if the video was just that for 25 minutes.
Yes. Race.
Race?
Yeah.
I'm not above taking a stroller over the winter.
You're gonna be in my video?
No.
No. Oh, he's awake now, so we'll see what happens. I've been slowly adding in exercises, so at my first training session back, first couple weeks I was just training once a week, and that was mostly upper body work, especially back work, just because I'm front loaded all day long, and so just trying to get my mid back moving again really felt most beneficial, and it felt good. And then my second day I added in a leg day, fire hydrants, hip thrusts, bridges. I was doing the rowing machine, body weight squats, and then I think at 9 weeks postpartum I added in BFR to add in some load. So right now I want to try to get frequency of training in over intensity. So frequency, if I can get in 3 training days a week, having one day focus on back and pulling, having a leg day one day, and then upper body, arm, shoulder accessories and other, with walking throughout the week. That's my goal. Technique, movement pattern stuff first, frequency of training, and then within those training sessions I'll focus on building volume, and then I'll start focusing on intensity later on. And that's my leg day. Still focusing on rest. So yes, I talked about how I've been coming back postpartum, but a huge focus is still resting as much as I can. C-section or natural, it doesn't matter. Your body goes through a lot after giving birth, and so again, it's not just about bouncing back, but really just giving your body what it needs. And there's a lot of changes and a lot of work that your body is going through, hormonally, physically, mentally. So I just think that yes, it's important to get back and get moving again, but it's also just as important to allow yourself to rest. It's a lot of work to rehab yourself, but then now you have a baby to also care for, and maybe you have multiple children too. So there's a lot of different factors, and I think that giving yourself time to rest is just as important. Just like with any other client, any other patient, I would tell them rest is super important for your recovery, right? Rest is super important for your progression through your program. So it's the same thing. Yes, I'm trying to build back to a program, but rest is just important in order for me to succeed through that program. So it's more important now than ever to take it when you can. So.